each other in that, but also how it continues today, and how we hear, you know, Herbie Hancock talk about it, but also Robert Glasper or Ambrose, all the young guys, how that's still, to me at least, or how I understand it, the essence of this music, and not just jazz, but also hip-hop and black music.
It's very powerful. Thank you. Don, you know, because this is the LA Jewish Film Festival, I just thought it was so powerful to read about these two refugees, Jewish refugees from the Holocaust, along with this other third guy, Max Margolis, who was really the writer behind the manifesto, apparently, plus another Jew, Van Gelder, who's also a Jew, apparently. And just this nexus point between Jews and jazz, and how the Nazis not only banned, obviously, and slaughtered Jews, but they banned jazz, describing, in the beautiful words, heinous words of Joseph Goebbels, that jazz is Americana, N-word, kike, jungle music. What is it about, something about the Jewish spirit and jazz?
Well, you know, certainly for these guys, for Alfred Lyon and Francis Wolff, coming from severe oppression and really getting out, you know, just in time, right? They had a keen understanding of the African American experience and a lot of empathy towards it. And I think, again, like we were saying, the music is conversational. The underlying emotional message gets through eloquently, and I'm sure they could relate to that spirit. It's just human spirit of the underdog and the oppressed crying out. We have a track called Free for All by Art Blakey, which I think just is the most concise portrayal of the mood of the times. It was, you know, during the brutality in Selma, Alabama, and it was before the cut maybe a few months before the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. And he's not talking about it being a musical free-for-all. You know, and you can hear the anger and the frustration, and also the optimism for the future and the hope in that track. I just think it's universal music it speaks to people all over the world, but certainly Jewish people can understand that.
What does it feel like to you to inherit this legacy, and as a Jew, to not only inherit it, but to also be in the position of bringing it forward into the future?
Well, I take it very seriously, to be honest with you. You know, I wish I could be a little cooler about it, but...
You can't help but be cool.
No, I mean...
You were born cool.
Born cool? Well, we'll see. I don't know. But, you know, in the Blue Note office, which is now in Capitol Tower, I got a picture of Alfred and Frank, and just below that, Bruce Lundvall hanging. And they're kind of looking at the desk. And I really do... I think about them, and I think about that manifesto that they wrote, and I want to make sure we're keeping that spirit alive. That spirit meant so much to me as a young person. It's not like this is just a job I applied for. This is collecting Blue Note records was a lifelong pursuit that began for me in 1966.
Do you want to tell everybody how you first heard your first Blue Note?
I could tell you that story, yes.
I love it.
All right. Well, I come from Detroit, Michigan. And see, we got some people here from Detroit. Good, cool. I was driving around Detroit with my mom. I was 14. She was running errands. And I was just in a terrible mood and being a pain in the neck, as a 14-year-old boys want to do, being stuck running errands with his mom. And finally, she was disgusted with me. She left me in the car with the keys so I could listen to the radio and I wouldn't drag her down in the stores. And I just started playing with the dial, and I landed on the jazz station in Detroit, WCHD, which I didn't know existed, and I think I'd heard that music, you know, in the background throughout my life, but I never really focused on it. And I came upon a song called Mode for Joe by a guy named Joe Henderson. And that's right, yes. and I hit the station just as his saxophone solo was starting. And I heard these, it's like these, well, you should listen to it, you can hear it. It's like kind of anguished cries coming out of the saxophone. It's not saxophone technique. There are no reeds. You don't hear any of that stuff. You don't hear the metal. You just really hear a guy in pain. And I could relate to the pain because I was really bummed out about having to get dragged around on these errands. So it really spoke to me. But then about 20 seconds in, the drummer, Joe Chambers, kicks in, and it starts swinging, and he goes from these anguished cries into he falls into the pocket. And the message that came through to me, it was like he was speaking. He was saying, Don, you've got to groove in the face of adversity, or something like that. It might not have been those words, but that was the essence of it. And it altered my mood. I thought, that's true. I do have to groove in the face of adversity. And by the time my mom got back to the car, I was a nice kid again. And I realized the power of this music. No lyrics, anything. Just the spirit of the thing turned my mood around 180 degrees in about 45 seconds. And I knew this was powerful. And then I bought an FM radio so I could listen in the house and started collecting the records. And most of the stuff I heard that I loved was, being put out by this little label out of New York, Blue Note. So I was a lifelong fan, and I feel it's really important that other 14-year-olds have that same experience, or maybe not the identical one, of course, but something quite similar, and that spirit lives on in the music that we make today.
Sophie, what do you want people who see the film to take away from it? What are you hoping people take away from the film?
Well, what was kind of difficult is to put 80 years into 90 minutes. So you have to leave out some things, and you also, what I wanted to do is to also make it accessible for people who do not necessarily know a lot about jazz. So that was kind of, I had to move in between these two spaces. And what I hope, sorry, this pops a lot.
It's good.
What I hope, what to me is the center of the film is the session with Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, Robert Glasper, and the young guys coming together, and what they explain about the music actually being, and what it means to play the music, and how you can use these lessons in your life. So basically being in the moment and really listening to the other, and therefore finding a way to communicate and respect each other. And I know that's sort of haughty, but that's what I hope.
That's very powerful. And it's not haughty. I mean, I found myself, when I was watching the film, just taking down these words. So if you want to, I'm just going to read the words, and if you want to just react to them, either one of you, thought out versus not thought out, transcendent, submitting to the now, courage, fearlessness, uncertainty becomes your ally, the courage to be vulnerable, getting beyond the nodes, managing the ego that allows the music to flow through, non-judgmental, in search of something new, freedom, joy, hope, affecting the world, free for all, civil rights, finding a portal that you can transcend yourself in. You want to speak to any of those words? Either one of you?
It's pretty vivid.
Right?
I mean,
Right?
Well, speaking as a musician,
Yes.
I can tell you that's really the ideal. I'm 66. I'm still working on it. I wish I had another 50 years to work on it. Wish I'd have maybe heard some of that earlier in my life.
220, baby.
Okay. But I think that's at the core of we were just talking about this over dinner, like just getting into that place where it's everything you said. All of that. I don't think I can add to that. It was eloquently expressed.
I think that one of the things that struck me, because you're so eloquent, and you're a man of few words, but what you say is power. You really speak about jazz almost as a spiritual endeavor. And when you speak of the film Speak No Evil, the track Speak No Evil, and how it's a meditation. And you also allude to just sort of the ritual of what it is to have an LP. In other words, breaking the shrink wrap, the cover art, those iconic photos, the Bauhaus design, all of that, the liner notes. What is it today to be sort of divorced from ritual? I keep thinking about it as a rabbi, sort of like do Shabbat but no to the rituals. They don't like candles anymore. So I'm curious if you feel that there are new rituals, new ways to celebrate the experience.
Yeah, but that's you've hit at the essence of what we think about every day and try to. I mean, we have a few different ways of doing it. We've sort of doubled down on the notion of physical, experiential packages, right? So, for example, we have something called the Blue Note Review that comes out once a year. It's a double album of songs created by artists who are currently on the roster, organized around a theme, and it's only available in that box. The whole idea of the box was to try to get the vinyl experience, but on steroids. So there's this double album. There are 2 audiophile versions of out-of-print records. There are 2 Francis Wolff. I'm not doing a sales pitch. I'm just merely trying to.
It's good to. I mean, what are we here
that
for?
Sound like a late night commercial, but operators standing by.
We have them here. They're selling them here. Oh no, you have them.
Oh, good.
Okay.
But it's got photographs. It's got a magazine. It's got this current one has a book about drummers talking about the art of drumming. And it's just so you can experience the music. The biggest thing we have going on right now is a series of audiophile reissues of the vinyl, which is just they just sound great, and the packaging is deluxe, and people love it. And we're in the 4th pressing of the first one. It's only been out a month. So there's an appetite for that, but also. If you like listening to Spotify, it's all there too. You
right.
can listen out. It's just you make it available to everybody. But I agree with you that some of those ancillary things create a vibe that, for me, it was life changing. I looked at those photos. I wanted to be in that room. I wanted to be a part of that, and I think it really shaped the direction of my life.
A couple of final questions. One is, you'd spoke in the film about how one of the amazing things about Blue Note is that they literally revolutionized music each decade. Where do you see it going now? What excites you right now about the next decade?
Last Friday, we had a record come out by a young kid named Joel Ross out of Chicago. He's 23 years old. He's a vibes player. And to me, he's his generation's Miles Davis, or sort of what Robert Glasper is to his generation. This kid's just got this thing, and I've seen him play live, and he elevates the performance of all the other musicians. He's 23. He made the record on his own. He's got a really highly evolved vision. He loves Milt Jackson, who recorded for Blue Note. He befriended Bobby Hutcherson at the end of his life, and Bobby, of course, made 25 records for Blue Note. A guy named Stefan Harris is like his mentor, who recorded for the label. And if you listen to Joel, even at 23, he's got his own unique approach to the instrument. You can identify him instantly, and he's doing something new that no one's done before, but yet is linked to the tradition. And that, when I see him, I know we're okay. I know that's the thing that kept the label going for 80 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I know that's what you said about Robert Glasper, just that kind of sense that you could see where things are going.
Yeah.
Are there any female artists on the train?
Oh, man, there's a I can't announce it yet because we haven't done the deal.
Oh man,
but,
it's a secret.
Come back in 2 weeks and I'll tell you all about it. But no, there's a great group, like a kind of all-star, all women. That,
oh man.
Blow everybody's
okay, then
mind.
we're gonna have to publicize that. Hillary, how are we doing time? Should we take like 2 questions from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna do 2. You want to pick them?
No, it's on you, Rabbi.
Okay. Right there. You get number 1. Speak up.
You know, it's such a culture, I think it will be easy not to make a good film about it and be criticized for it, but I think you really nailed it. Congratulations.
She did nail it.
Yeah, I love the cinematography, the editing. And when I watched all these amazing artworks of all these labels, and then when I watched all the interviews, I thought it falls in line with the artwork of the 50s and 60s. How did you decide about this cinematography?
Thank you. Well, obviously we wanted to get close to that look of the photographs, and we did some tests. Visible somehow, and the idea to connect it to because the film goes back and forth between the past and the past, to just also visually link it together. So that was
beautiful. You did such a superb job with that, and the stills and those contact sheets, just unbelievable. It's really beautiful. And the cover art, I mean, it also stunned me when I was really thinking about how the cover art was the artist, what's his name? Reed
Miles.
Reed Miles. That he too is very influenced by the Bauhaus tradition. Again, another movement completely, the Nazis called it like the synagogue of filth, the Bauhaus movement. So again, another artistic expression that somehow was degenerate art in the demented minds of the Nazis.
He actually hated jazz.
Yeah.
He liked classical music, but
he did a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Reggie, who was at Neshuva. Okay. You were there. You were at Neshuva Friday. Okay, right here. Yes.
Leave out and leave in. Who I missed was Billie Holiday.
She wasn't a Blue Note.
She wasn't
She was a Blue Note artist.
I'm very glad you mentioned her name, because she was actually not on it.
Yeah. She wasn't on Blue Note's
There's a story that she rang the bell because she heard that there's amazing musicians go in the middle of the night to Rudy Van Gelder's studio. And apparently she went at 4 o'clock in the morning and rang the bell. But Alfred Lyon, because it was just a year into him having the label, didn't dare to open the door. Yeah, that's what I read. But then nobody could, fact check it, so it's not really.
But it is incredibly fascinating that Commodore, all of these labels also all run by Jews. Something, I mean, obviously the music business, but that it was such a deeply Jewish endeavor.
I have to say maybe it's also, also Europeans, because if you look at the all the archival footage from concerts, they're all from European concerts.
Yes.
So the Americans didn't really feel it's necessary to, film their artists.
Okay, does anybody have a final question? Yes, back there. Say it again?
Your female artist representation.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
Well, did you mean in the film or for the label in general? Then that's...
Yeah, there's no question that women are underrepresented in jazz, and it's a work in progress. We're trying, we're definitely addressing it, and it's got to be addressed not just from record companies, but beginning at music schools. I know Berkeley, Terry Lynn Carrington's got a great program at Berkeley where she's really developing female jazz artists, and it's like everything else, it will get better. The whole scene will look different in 2 or 3 years, I think. But it's not right the way it is.
Well, we have faith in you. Yeah, thanks, sir. Sophie, when is the film coming out in theaters?
It's coming out June 14th in New York at the Metrograph and June 28th at Limbless Santa Monica. So if you like it, all your friends, because we have no budget to put billboards up or radio ads, so we really need word of mouth.
We'll definitely spread the word. Please post it on your social media. And I can say, as somebody who knows very little about jazz, that I personally found the film very affecting and not elitist, like really informative, and made you want to go listen. Like, there's no question, I'm going to sit with my eyes closed and listen to Speak No Evil. I mean, there's just no question, you have to do it now. So if you have, I would love for you to put out some kind of list for those of us who are not jazz aficionados, like a playlist of what we should listen to.
We're going to have a playlist of the music that's in the film.
And also just, just from you, what you want us to listen to, what albums you think are just the ones that everybody who wants to understand the history of Blue Note, where it came from and where it's going, what we should be listening to. And I think all of us would be happy to spread that.
If you're on Spotify, we've kind of done that.
You have?
And we have our own playlists that are quite extensive and
Okay.
thematically oriented.
Beautiful.
Just put in, Blue Note Records or something like that on the search, and all these playlists will come up. But we've worked extensively.
Thank you.
on it. Yes, you're welcome.
Awesome. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations.